All right, YouTube Repo Man 64. The only way I think I can start this is by ripping off the Band-Aid. But before you jump to a conclusion, which you will, give me a moment to explain because the rapture is before I rip off this Band-Aid. So for years, for the past 4 or 5 years, people have been saying we're in the Jubilee. I finally sat down and went through everything, uh, assuming that all of the calendars are, well, the Gregorian calendar is correct. And I did a timeline on that, proving that we were in the Jubilee this year, 2025. But then I realized I was studying it the other day, and I realized I knew we were in 2024, but I just figured they just called it the wrong year. So I said, I've got to go, and I've been at this for 2 days, just poring over these numbers for the past 2 days. I've got to go in and mathematically figure out when creation happened and what year we are actually in. And that's what I did. So bear with me for a moment because this is not the Jubilee year, and a rapture must occur in a Jubilee year. That Jubilee year begins on March 17th. However, some things have transpired that are unexplainable, I think. They sacrificed the red heifer on July 1st. Why did they do that on July 1st? What does July 1st have to do with anything? It's 3 months after the cross, 9 months before the cross. So why sacrifice the red heifer on July 1st? It has literally no bearing whatsoever on the calendar. Then I took a look at when they blew the shofar for the first time in 2,000 years. This event is huge. This event is as huge as them sacrificing the red heifer. But they blew it on August the 23rd. And I'm sitting here, and I might have mentioned this in other videos. So I'm sitting here going, Lord, that's a huge event. Why would we waste such an event in a Jubilee year when the Bible's very clear in Leviticus that you will blow trumpets in the 49th year, heralding in the 50th year Jubilee, which will come since you blow it 10 days later in the 49th year of the 7 times 7 Shemitah cycles. Why would you blow it in 2025? Which again, this is 2024. This is not 2025. That Catholic monk in 525 AD that created, if he'd never done that, if he had never done that, we would be right now in the year 6027. It is, and that's where my mistake came in. That's where the mistake was. But I think it's by design, honestly, because that's the 49th year or the seventh year of the seventh Shemitah cycle, the 49th year. 2024 is. 2025 is the Jubilee and also the first year of the next 49 Shemitah cycles, which is why Jubilees are 49 years apart and not 50. Even though it is the 50th year, it is still, and I'll show that to you here in a moment because I sat down, I've sat down with a pen and paper, and I have a bunch of papers that I had to throw out because they didn't make sense until I finally figured out we have two inherent problems when we're counting back using BC and AD. I eliminated it, but I still lined it up with a Gregorian. The way I did that was ignore the 0 year. Doesn't exist. I simply counted by 49 and I just went back. And the same thing happens at creation. You have to remember that the first year was an absolute complete year, and it began on September the 15th in the year 4003. But creation itself actually began on September 11th, 4 days earlier in 4004. The year switched over. The year switched over on trumpets. Now, I know this is a lot to understand. I'm going to try to simplify it. Um, I've had all these numbers just coursing through my head for days now, and I think I can explain it. But I want you to keep in mind that why did they blow trumpets on August the 23rd? In a 49th year Shemitah cycle, they are to blow trumpets, like the Leviticus says, on the seventh month and 10th day. This is September the 23rd, 24th, but they blew it on August the 23rd. They are 30 days out. And then the sacrifice of the red heifer, they are 3 months out. We're dealing with a 4-month issue. So I went in and said, and I've been thinking on this for some time, and I realize as much as we think Satan will go into the temple on Passover and proclaim himself to be God, he cannot. He is not allowed to use God's dates for his things. He did that on 9/11, the first day of creation. Although nobody knew that was the first day of creation, he did, in fact, bring down the towers in New York on 9/11. And so I think that when it comes to Satan confusing the calendars, that's what he's done. That's why all of these dates are not matching up. Likewise, I don't now think that, and by the way, it's 1,260 days that the witness must prophesy, the witnesses must prophesy before Satan goes in to proclaim himself to be God. I don't think he can go in and proclaim himself to be God. And I'm looking at second Passover now because it says, for a man on a long journey or who has touched a dead body. This man that has been on a long journey and who has been dead is Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot is the Antichrist. He cannot be revealed, obviously, because he's dead. He wants to come back really bad. We want the rapture really bad. I don't think there's anyone that does not want the rapture aside from the unbelievers. I believe that all sides that are involved in this story want the rapture to occur. Now, I think that the date of the rapture actually is right around the corner. And I'm going to show you math with what I do and take a look at why I think it's just around the corner mathematically. When I do this stuff, I don't have a dog in the fight. I hope Dr. Berry's right and it's November the 7th, although I can't mathematically marry that up to any timeline that I can see. But I hope he's right. I watch all of these guys not trying to determine whether they're right or wrong and, oh, you're a fool. And you'll never see me make a comment going, you're wrong about this. Da, da, da. All you'll see is support, or I will refrain from making a comment simply because I might disagree, but it doesn't matter. Their testimony holds true, and that's what we all start out with. This isn't about a date. Sure, we're all looking forward to him coming back. Most of us are in dire straits. I watched a video on what's going on down in is it Africa? We're in dire straits, but not like those people, not like those Christians. Those Christians are absolutely being slaughtered, so much so that the president says he's going to get involved. And to get him involved and spend money on stuff like that means it's pretty catastrophic. So here we sit. My back hurts, and I get it. I mean, right now that kidney stone is hurting. Even though I passed it, I have another one coming. So this is great. But so I'm in pain right now. But it's nothing compared to the pain of a bullet entering and exiting my body, or multiple bullets. It just isn't that bad. And so while we say, and I saw this on Facebook, and it was absolutely outstanding. I saw this on Facebook, and it said, Uh, Somebody was complaining, life is not fair. And they said, you're right, it's not. If it were, you would be hanging on that cross. That's what fair is. A fair is that we are punished for what we have done, and we have all done something. So, any of these videos that I make, first and foremost, always is Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. Without him, nobody is getting to heaven. I don't care if you figured the date out. You're not going to heaven without him. And it's the simple gospel. He offered you a cup, you drink from it. And when people get to heaven, like I said before, we'll all compare notes and pridefully say, oh, yeah, I took the cup. Yeah, so did I. You're not going to find one person in heaven that didn't take that cup and drink from it. Every single one of them will. So we're surprised in that. We all did the same thing. Jesus is the one that did everything for us. And that's the name of that tune. All right, so let me go in here and share. And I will try to articulate this in a fashion to where even I can understand, which sometimes is difficult for me even. So hold on, I'm waiting for that bar to go up. Go away. It's just not going up yet. Hold on a second. Go away. I can't do the video with this bar down here. Hold on. Let me stop sharing and reshare. There we go. Let's see if the bar goes away this time. It still didn't go away. All right. I don't know what, I never have figured out how to move the bar. Oh, it's going away now. Okay, it went away. Sorry about that. All right, so let's start with this. I saw this and I didn't relate the two videos that I made together in that we are actually in the year 2024. It is the 49 Shemitah cycle, and it literally didn't click when they blew trumpets for the first time on August the 23rd, as opposed to September the 23rd, 24th. That they, number one, they did it a month early, but they did it in the year 2024. It did not click for me that this is not the Jubilee year. This is over here. The first Jubilee year shares, I'm sorry, the Jubilee year shares the first year of the Shemitah cycle, which is why you have a graph that looks like this. This is 0 right here. This is 1. And you keep counting. This is 1 up here. This is 2. This is 2 up here. This is 3. And you keep going on. This is 49 up here, or 48, and this is 49. 49 years consists of 7 times 7 Jubilee cycles. But the Jubilee, they blow trumpets here in 2024. We are in 2024. I will show that math to you here in a moment. In 2024, they blew trumpets. And in my mind, I'm like, why would you blow trumpets in the Jubilee year? It makes no sense. You're off by a long ways. And then I realized the other day, I'm like, oh man, I got to go tell people that the Jubilee, we're not actually in the Jubilee year. How am I going to present this in a fashion? Because they've been told for years that we're in the Jubilee year. And now I've just discovered that we actually are not, because the Jubilee year is here. What we call, well, what we call 2026, it will be 2025 actually. So, and that Jubilee, if you name this Groundhog's Day and not Jubilee and got that out of your head, and you held one on the first of every 49 years, you would say, oh, that's a 49 year count. But because we use the word Jubilee, everybody's like, oh, that's 50 years. It's not. The Jubilee is not 50 years. It's 49. Just because of it shares this last year, or I'm sorry, it shares the first year. That's why it overlaps. It overlaps just like BC and AD overlap. It shares that same year. God does this or allows things like this to happen quite often. All right, I'll get to the meat of this in a moment. Let me see here. We knew that. So, just for a frame of reference, the second Passover in 2029 will it says it's actually April the 29th. March 30th to April the 29th, the extra day because of March 31. But April 29th, they seem to be already a day off from when they called Passover, evening of March the 30th, which they are accurate. That's when Jesus died on the cross on a Wednesday, March 30th, when the day was well spent at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You could call it March the 31st because the day was well spent. I have a few examples to show you where God actually says this. We also have learned that Elijah comes first. We see so many verses in the Bible that Elijah will come before Moses. Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the coming great and dreadful day, which means that when the rapture occurs, Elijah will have already been here. Moses cannot be here because he is dead. The Antichrist cannot be here because he is dead. He is Judas Iscariot. There is some discussions that where the Bible says out of the mouth there are two or three witnesses, that it is possible. Moses and Elijah are the two witnesses in view here, but it is also possible that when the Bible says the two witnesses, that John is still here, that he never died. There's no record of him dying anywhere. You would think that would be something that they would have been able to record, but they have no record of John ever dying. So we see a possibility that John picks up the slack here in the very beginning of the 1,260 days and until Moses shows up, possibly. That's just a theory that we're discussing and floating out there to see what you might think of it, because there's this argument, a lot of, not argument, but discussion back and forth that Moses and Elijah, of course, were named at the Mount of Transfiguration. They are the two witnesses, but how do you account for the 1,260 days if, in fact, that time has passed? And the only way to account for it now is either throw the whole thing away, which we can't, because we have the only way we know that we are not the bride is the day that we see the Antichrist. The day we see the Antichrist be revealed is the day we know that the pre-tribulational rapture of the bride was a fallacy. But until that day, I will hang on to it with every fiber of my being. Fingernails on the edge of a cliff, I am not letting go. It is a pre-tribulational rapture up to the point of the Antichrist being revealed. And he cannot be revealed until the rapture, because the dead must rise. And Judas Iscariot is dead. Moses is dead. So Elias comes first. Elias truly shall come first. The Bible spends a lot of time saying this for some reason. And no, it is while they understood, the disciples understood that he spake of John the Baptist, this information is for our time. The great and terrible day did not happen back then. It's happening here very soon. What is, I can't see, hold on. Or maybe I should just enlarge so we can all see. There we go. What the rising from the dead should mean. And they asked him, why say the scribes that Elias must come first? Elias verily cometh first. So the raising from the dead, not only was Jesus rising from the dead, but it was also the dead in Christ rising. And Elijah will be here already when that happens. And it spends an exhausting amount of time to reiterate that over and over again. Moses and Elijah are the two witnesses. Again, Moses is not here yet because the rapture hasn't happened yet. The Antichrist is not here yet because the rapture hasn't happened yet. The dead will rise first. Those who are dead and rise, that are Christians, will go to heaven. Those who are dead and rise that are not allowed to go over to the promised land. Moses is one of those. Remember, he wasn't allowed to go over to the promised land. He will stay here for 3.5 years, where he will die, and 3.5 days later, he will rise. So anyway, it spends a lot of time discussing that. The great and dreadful day of the Lord is a period of time when God's wrath, judgment are poured out on the unbelieving world. The timing follows the rapture, okay? That's when this happens. So the rapture comes first. Somebody left me a comment, interesting comment about Moses. Mike, I've often wondered why he was referred to as not having an old body when he died. Remember, the Bible describes Moses as being in full strength when he died. These people who are not in Christ that will rise, many will rise, some to glory, some to contempt, and some to everlasting shame. Some will rise to go to heaven, some will rise because they are workers of their salvation, sleepy church, and they will have an opportunity. But when they rise, it makes a special note to state that Moses was in his full strength. When these people rise, if they died of cancer, they won't have very long to live. They're going to have to kneel down. And just like Lazarus down there in hell, looking up, it wasn't it was a rich man looking at Lazarus. He was able to understand what was going on, and so will these people. When they rise, they will understand that they need to accept Jesus on his terms. Take that cup and drink from it. It must be then that Moses will be resurrected into his previous unglorified body. Correct. Moses will not have a glorified body. Any glorified body can't be killed. Moses is going to be killed. He's going to be killed at the 3.5-year mark. So let's continue on. 508 years ago, on October the 31st, this is what Kevin was talking about. It's kind of a big event that Martin Luther actually posted that 508 years ago on October the 31st in 1517, the 95 thesis on the way the Catholic Church is wrong and is wrongly teaching the people. Now, here we get into some numbers. What they all mean, I don't know, but these are facts. Trumpets is September the 15th, not September the 23rd. September the 23rd is atonement. That's the 10 days later when you shall blow trumpets. They did that 30 days earlier on August the 23rd. Very confusing as to why. Possibly giving us information leading us to an earlier than March 17th rapture, which I believe is what's going on. September the 15th, trumpets. October the 31st is when Adam sinned. October the 31st has been used over and over again. Adam sinned on that day and was judged by God. The planet sinned on that day and was judged by God by a huge flood. Martin Luther brought judgment on the Catholic Church by nailing up the 95 thesis on what they were doing wrong, selling salvation to people. You could buy a bill of salvation from them. If you had enough money, you could buy this piece of paper that says you're guaranteed, and people would actually hold on to that, not onto Jesus. They'd hold on to that paper. 508 years ago, they're about to rise and go, man, that paper really didn't help me after all. So at any rate, Adam sinned 47 days after the new year of September the 15th, 46 days after he was created. From September the 15th to December the 16th, the day Adam was removed from the garden, was 93 days. He sinned 47 days into the year, and 45 days after that, God remembered Adam and says, if he eats of the tree of life, we got to get rid of this guy. And it just so happens that December the 16th is one day, or the day after the 8 days of the Hanukkah. It just so happens it turns out that way. Or does it? I don't think it does. I think that's why Hanukkah is December the 7th through the 15th. And then on December the 16th, Adam was removed from the garden for a total of 93 days from the beginning of the new year and 45 days from when he sinned. These are just a bunch of numbers that I want you to remember because I'm going to bring them up later. They blew trumpets on August the 23rd, 2025. Which, again, this is not 2025, this is 2024. And so when I saw them do that, and I had said that this is the Jubilee year, I questioned my whole reality, honestly. I says, this is a big event. This isn't just some guy up there blowing a trumpet. No, this has not happened in 2,000 years, Lord. Why would you let it happen in the middle of a Jubilee year? It makes no sense to me. Until I realized this is not the Jubilee year. next year is those trumpets were blown 30 days early. And again, 2025 is the Jubilee year. This is 2024. They should have blown the trumpets on September the 24th, 2024, but they blew them on August the 23rd, 2024, 33 days early, 33 days, if you count the inclusive, 33 days inclusive. Now, they should have sacrificed the red heifer on Passover. They didn't. They sacrificed it on July 1st, which is 93 days after Passover. Jesus went to the cross, gave up the ghost at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The day was well spent on March the 30th, and March the 31st would be the first day of his 3 days and 3 nights in the grave of that counting. 93 days. So we saw 33 days, 93 days, and we come here. 33 and 93 are 126 days. The Jubilee year will begin on March 17th in 2026. If you subtract that 126-day discrepancy, you land on November the 11th. I can't make that stuff happen. It just does. And so November the 11th is the day, this is Heshvan 27. This is the day that Noah left the ark. On a static timeline with the year beginning on March 17th, if you just count, just basic count, anybody can do it, just count, you'll come to November the 11th as the date that Noah left the ark. He left the ark. There was now no sin in the world. Sin was removed. Once the rapture occurs, there will be only sin in the world. All of the righteous will be removed. It will be a stark contrast. It'll be opposite. Just like Adam had 7 good years and there's going to be 7 years of trouble, it's the stark opposite contrast to what we saw when Noah got off the ark on November the 11th. So that's very interesting that lined up that way. All right. From November the 17th to second Passover, which is April the 29th at sunset. I showed you that they're saying, I think they're saying 28th at sunset. They're off by a day. But April the 29th at sunset, becoming April the 30th, is 1,260 days. We don't see the Antichrist must be here for 1,260 days. We don't see that. What we do see is that the witnesses will be here for 1,260 days. The Antichrist is Judas Iscariot. Moses is dead. Judas Iscariot is dead. They both rise. The time cannot begin there unless it begins by November the 17th for their 1,260 days. 6 days earlier would be that November the 11th of Noah getting off the ark. So my thought process here is that John fills in because he never died. He fills in. As a matter of fact, I think John will be taken on the day that Moses arrives. I think John's filling in. He's alive, been alive this whole time. And when the rapture occurs, John's going. And Moses will take his place. Elijah will have already been here, just like we see in the Bible. And again, that's just an idea that we're kicking around to try to understand. Now, because they weren't allowed to blow trumpets on the correct day, they weren't allowed to sacrifice this red heifer on the correct day. I don't think God is allowing them, is going to allow Satan to go in on Passover. I think that's why second Passover was set up. I think Satan's going to go in and proclaim himself to be God on second Passover. And this is the day the 2 witnesses will die. And the 2 witnesses will be here witnessing 1,260 days prior to that, or the 2 witnesses will die on Passover and rise when Jesus rose, and John is covering the difference until Moses gets here on November the 11th. This is also a possibility. Remember, everything must fall. All of these dates, and they do, all must fall while Israel is 77. Israel cannot turn 78. Israel cannot turn 81, and Israel cannot turn 85 in those three different events. The first event, the rapture, must occur before May 14th of 2026. It must, and it will. The Jews must flee to Petra for 1,290 days. And I think that is going to occur. I think that that is going to occur sometime around Apophis. And so from around Apophis, 1,290 days, the Jews will flee. And prior to that, we have the 1,260 days. The tribulation period is 7 years. I've heard people say it's 3.5. I don't know how you're doing that when Daniel's 70th week is 7 years. I hear you're assigning the first 3.5 years to Jesus. In doing so, you are calling Jesus the Antichrist, and you're changing doctrine to try to equate to a 3.5 year tribulation. It is not. It's 3.5 years, and then 3.5 years, and that's just what it is. We can't say Jesus performed the first 3.5 years because the Antichrist does that for 1,260 days. So take note here that 4003 BC plus the year 2024 does in fact equal 6,027. 6,027 divided by 49 is 123. I said jubilee cycles, but it is not. It is 123 Shemitah, 49-year Shemitah cycle blocks of time. The next year after this, 49, beginning the first year of the next block, is the Jubilee, which is why Jubilees are 49 years apart. But the 50th year, this is where I made my mistake, didn't understand what I was looking at. We are, in fact, in the year 2024. This is divisible by 49. The year had to be 4003. If you change this to, I've heard them say 3970, well, then do your blocks. You aren't going to see a rapture for another 30 years. If you say this is anything other than 4003, you're changing this. You can't have both. They both go together. They both must equal 6,027. All of this will equal 123 Jubilee cycles of 49. And then the 50th year, which is where I made my blunder. And I've been calling this the Jubilee year since before. You might have seen me on with Bob Barber saying March 16th, March 16th. I was a year off. I was 1 year off because it is not the 49th year of this block. It is the first year of the next block over here. That's where I made my mistake. All right, so I did this, and this is not the first page. This is like the fourth page, and I did all of this. And what I wanted to know was, first of all, I know a Jubilee cycle is 49. 6,027 is divisible by 49. So all I did was begin counting back by 49, 49, 49. I eliminated the 0 year just by counting 49. It doesn't exist. Once I was able to count back 6,027, a Jubilee, the 49th Jubilee cycle, forgetting that the following year, 6,028, is the first year of the next block. So technically, I could have added 49 years to this and put it down here, and that would have been the first year of the next 49-year block. And that would be 2025. And I proved it by counting, just simple counting, taking out BC AD and just going by 49 years. But like I said, 6,027 is the 123rd 49-year block. And the following year after that will be the Jubilee, which is 2025. We are in the year 2024. Counting back 49, 49, it went all the way back. I just kept with my calculator, counting all the way back. You can verify any of this simply by, on the plus side, right here, when it goes plus, that, for lack of a better term, is BC AD. It does not, Jesus was not born in a Jubilee. He did not go to the cross in a Jubilee. None of that happened. Jesus came lowly. He did not come as a king. He came as a lamb. So nothing revolving around Jesus happened in a jubilee. After, when it goes plus, after the, like I said, BCAD, lack of a better term, plus 15, you would simply deduct 15 from this number, and you will always come to 4003. You can verify all the math. Now, on the negative side of it, you will take 3822 and deduct, add. On this side, you add. On this side, you deduct. So you would add 181, and again, you would come out to 4003. You will always come out in each block. If you, on this side again, if you add, on this side, if you deduct, you will always come to the year 4003. That's what you want to have happen. Then I discovered a second problem. After I conquered BCAD problem, which I did, I recognized that the first year starts out with 0, or 4004. And when you count it this way, that's 1 year. So I had to be cognizant of that while I was counting for the Gregorian date. So I used this 0, that's 1, and then I kept doing this for 49. I have a paper over here where I meticulously did year by year by year to ensure that I landed on 3954 after, I don't know where it's at right now, after 49 years, which I did. So 4003 is the year. 49 would be from creation. 3954 would be BC, for lack again of a better term, because we did this. I implemented it, but I had to eliminate it in order to not get hung up by that 0 year. So we had two issues. We had a 0 year issue, and we had the first year on how to count it issue, because when you're counting backwards, you have to go all the way through 0 in order to count as 1. So I wound up having to redo this several times, trying to get the correct math, which I finally did. This is the 49th, 123rd, 49th Shemitah cycle, year 49. It is 2024 right now. We are in the year 2024 because when I count back, in order to get back here, we count back to the year 4003 BC. That was creation. They complement each other. They work together. They mathematically fit. It cannot be any other year. It cannot be 3970 because it can't. Now I do know of someone, I don't recall who it was, that said 3970 because Adam was 33 and a half, and they were including all of Adam's age and counting back from 3970 and still getting to 4003 as creation, and then somehow doing some math from Adam and 3970, and it actually made sense when they did it. I can't do it because Adam was created with age. He wasn't created an embryo in a womb anywhere. Adam's the only adult that didn't have a belly button, right? Adam and Eve didn't have a belly button. We learned that joke in catechism, didn't we? So no, Adam was created with age. He was 26 and a half. He was the same age as the year was when Jesus was baptized. Jesus was baptized in the year 26 and a half. There's symmetry. There's always some symmetry that you can find. Adam was removed from the garden when he was 33 and a half. 7 years later, Jesus went to the cross when he was 33 and a half. 3.5 years after he was baptized. So, all right. Once again, this is from creation. This side, BC or AD, after you get past that. Creation began on September the 11th in 4004, but switched over to 4003 on September the 15th, the Feast of Trumpets, implemented way back when. And again, we count them out. Each one of these, you can do the math yourself. If I add 83 to 3920, I will come up with 4003. I will always come up with 4003. If you change 4003 to 4004 and do your math, you will not come to the fact that 2024, which is the year we're in, is 6,000, because this is 6,027 years from creation right now as we speak. It happened on March 17th. It began. It ends on March 16th of 2024. And then in 2025, which we call 2026, on March 17th begins the new uh, the Jubilee and the first year of the next 49-year block, which we continue on counting because I didn't do it here, but when you continue counting those blocks, as a matter of fact, let me do this here real quick. When you continue counting these blocks of time, you will see that right here. Let me show you this. I know this is tedious, and I know it can be boring, and a lot of you are getting your eyes glazed over, and I get that. This is a program based on salvation, not on numbers, but there are many of you out there who are very calendrical, very numerical, and you will see this, and you might sit down and find a mistake, which is what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for somebody to sit down and recalculate and say, oh, you forgot this, you forgot that. I believe I got everything as far as time starting with zero through a baby is not one until he's one, but when he is turning the second year, he's turning two. You see what I'm saying? He makes it through his first year, but in his second year of life, he's one. Throughout his entire second year of life, he's one until he turns two at the end of that. And then in his third year of life, he's two, if that makes sense. That's how you have to be careful at the very beginning to count that. If you don't, you will wind up in the wrong year. And again, they got to match. They have to match. So when we continue going out with the Jubilee cycle of 7034 and 7056, 7056 would be the 144th 49-year block of the Jubilee cycle. Right there. Armageddon. That's the 49th year. The 50th year, and what do I have a date down there? No, I don't. Why don't I have a date down there? Oh, 3054. So 3055, after all of that's destroyed, God creates a new heaven and a new earth. 3055 would begin the Jubilee. This is the 49-year block. This is where all the bad stuff happens. The same thing right now. All the bad stuff in 2024 is about to happen. October the 31st of 2024, all of this bad stuff is about to happen. And so, but the good stuff for 2025 in the Jubilee year will be for us, unless those days be shortened. Let me see here. Where was I? So that, I don't even know where I'm at. Is this it? I think I made it past through all that. Oh, here. Okay. So let me get rid of that. You guys, I guess I'll post this in the Discord. You guys can take this. Let me move out of the way. That's through line 14. And take this from 15. Doesn't fit. 15 down. And then finally the last part right there. And check my math. Each one of these, when you add them or subtract them, depending on if you're on the plus side or the negative side, should always equal 4,003. If you're going based off of some other year, this will not happen. This will not be the 49th year. And this, of course, because of, we've proven that over and over again, because of the 0 year, this actually isn't 2025. This is actually 2024. All right. Now, Spinebrick, I was talking to him. I said, I know what the delay is. We've made a huge mistake, I'm talking to my friends because they ground me, and they give me input, which is very helpful to understanding what's going on. And while Kevin is not numerical, Kevin is a great source of biblical verses that he might take me to either support or go against an idea that I might have had. and he's done it on both sides several times. And I also I like speaking with David the Watchman because he's very numerical. And unfortunately, he was busy, very busy on Halloween, well, October the 30th, when I realized all of this stuff. And I began talking to him, but he was very busy, so he couldn't devote any attention to this. And David is like me. Once you give the dog a bone, he will not stop until we're down to the marrow. And I suspect that David is like me in that he will not touch this until he can devote the right amount of time to looking into it to see if it holds any water. I know what the delay is. We've made a huge mistake. This is not the Jubilee year. A rapture can only happen in a Jubilee year. However, there are verses about in the time of life, which means 9 months, and the day was far spent, meaning they began counting the next day at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, I answered that, meaning 9 months and 3 p.m. If any day is enough and the day is done. So by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they've already stated that that day is done because the day is far spent. Jesus died on the cross at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That day was far spent. And again, what they did is I add the extra day of the year into September, but they added an extra, and I do that on because of the 364 Enochian calendar, but they've added the extra day on March 31st. Jesus should have given up the ghost on March 30th at 3 p.m. and April Fool's Day. Satan would have realized that he blundered tremendously because now all of those who he thought were his now have a redemption plan, now have the possibility of being saved and going to heaven. That's what happened on the cross. The darkness saw it, the light, but they could not perceive it. He could not understand what he was doing. Had he knew what he was doing, he would have never crucified Jesus on the cross. He did not understand that Jesus was the one paying for the sins of the whole world. And that's why Satan had thought he won in the garden, which technically he did. But then Jesus came, and Satan thought all of us were going to get thrown into the lake of fire together, himself and God's creation. I suppose there's a part of Satan hoping that God would not throw his image into the lake of fire, except for they be completely corrupt and that he might possibly find salvation, which is why he created the Nephilim, thinking maybe if I mix the two together, God will have to look at the Nephilim, not us, which we are the creation of God, each and every single one of us. No matter where you are from, you are created in the image of a glorious God, and you should hold on to that, recognizing that, and not follow Satan, because Satan is not created in the image of God, which is why he became enraged when God created us. So keep that in mind, that Jesus came here to pay the penalty for your sins. That's it, and that's all. Noah left the ark on November the 11th. They blew trumpets 33 days earlier and sacrificed a red heifer 93 days after Passover. I showed you this 126-day discrepancy. They can't use God's holy days. I thought they would, but God is not allowing it. Satan will go in on second Passover, not Passover, 30 days later. That's why the rapture hasn't happened yet. But we see it should have. And then I showed him this 126-day difference, which ironically lands on November the 11th. That's my next high watch day, November the 11th. All right. I went in and found some verses for you that prove that it's already the next day. They're already considering the next day as being the day because the day is far spent. I believe God is going to consider it a jubilee because the year is far spent. The year is already well spent. We are in the ninth hour. Is it what time is 3 o'clock in the afternoon? I don't even know. Is that the ninth hour? That's where we are right now. We are in the 3 o'clock hour right now. We don't have to wait until the Jubilee begins on March 17th because the time is far spent. If it were not, if God hadn't shortened the days, no flesh would be saved. But for the very elect, he will shorten the days. He's going to come before the Jubilee. I think that's what that means. He is going to come prior to the Jubilee. He's going to come not on March 17th, but 4 months earlier, I believe. 5 months earlier. Exactly, I don't know when. I think it's November the 11th. But again, we will keep watching and we will keep waiting. Nothing will defer us from watching and waiting. Nothing at all, because of the fact that we have not seen Moses, we have not seen the Antichrist be revealed, and we have not seen, however you want to decipher, falling away or great departure. Both to me are the same thing. When you eliminate and take away every Christian on the face of the earth, that is a great falling away. And when you depart every Christian on earth, that is a great departure. Both are the same thing to me. Abide with us, for it is towards evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat to meat with them, he took bread, blessed it, brake it, and gave it unto them, and their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished in their sight. We see Jesus, and I heard somebody tell the story, and I'm not going to say who, it doesn't matter. But this story is in Luke 24. Jesus rises, first thing. The women see that the grave is empty. They run back and they tell the disciples, hey, the apostles, hey, the tomb's empty. They run back down and they see, in fact, the tomb is empty. They leave. Jesus appears to Mary. Mary then goes back and tells them. He says, don't touch me, for I have not ascended to the Father. Mary goes back and tells them. Jesus disappears. Jesus reappears on a day that is far spent, towards the evening. He is walking on the road to Emmaus. It is now getting close to evening time, and he vanishes in their sight. What do we see next after he vanishes in their sight? This is the part that everybody leaves out. Jesus rises, don't touch me, for I have not ascended to the Father. He ascends to the Father. He comes back down. He's walking on the road to Emmaus with these two people. He sits down to eat with them. The day is far spent, and he vanishes out of their sight. What is the very next? What does he do? He reappears. What did I do? I missed it. I didn't put it down. At any rate, you know the story. He reappears to the apostles in the upper room. He just appears out of nowhere. And then when he comes back, it's 8 days later for Thomas, who is the doubting believer, the lukewarm, who must see these things, which is what's going to happen on Rapture Day. They're going to see this event. So Jesus does three things on this day. He rises, he disappears, he goes to heaven, he comes back to the road to Emmaus when the day is far spent, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at that moment, it is exactly 4 days from when Jesus gave up the ghost on the cross. And then he disappears while he's sitting there at meat, eating with them, and he appears to the apostles, minus Thomas, in the upper room. He just appears. And Jesus gives them what? The Holy Ghost. How can he do that? Until he's performed the wave sheaf offering for the bride, which he did. And then he disappears again until the 8th day. So, all right. I hope that made sense to some of you. If it didn't, that's okay. We don't base our salvation on understanding any of this stuff. That's not it. Just that's the way my brain works. And when I noticed it, I was like, I've been telling them all year it's the Jubilee year. And it's not. Mathematically, it just isn't. Next year is the Jubilee year. This year is 2024. I saw it, but I didn't put it together in my head, probably because I wanted this to be the Jubilee year. Up until they blew trumpets. And I was like, after 2,000 years, that doesn't have any kind of meaning. They need to blow trumpets. If you read Leviticus, they must blow trumpets in the 24th year. I'm sorry, in the 49th year. That's what it says. And then heralding in the 50th year, which is 5 months and 20 days later because they blew it 10 days late. In this case, they blew it 30 days early. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there, a bunch of math. I've given you a bunch of math. Some of you might actually be able to run with some of this and understand some of this. And again, if you don't understand any of this, who cares? Your salvation isn't based on understanding timelines and stuff. Your salvation is based on Jesus. Just keep that in mind. Keep looking, keep watching. I hope this encourages some of you to know that no, we have not passed the date, the outside date. We have not passed it because we have not seen the Antichrist. So the pre-tribulational rapture is still on the table. It will always be on the table until we see the Antichrist. We're not going to see the Antichrist because there's a pre-tribulational rapture. I can't see it any other way. And so you keep watching and keep waiting and learn all you can learn and forevermore growing more intimate with the Word and Jesus and we'll see you on the other side anytime. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody except the Lord into your heart. We are out of time. We will chat with you all again later.